What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Azrael from the Curse of the White Knight series. And so here we have White Knight Azrael posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at this figure, let's actually run through his accessories really fast. Azrael only gets 2 accessories. We of course do get the Sword of Sin, which looks really nice. I love the detailing on this weapon. And then we also do get a flame effect, which does clip onto the Sword of Sin, so you can have it flaming. He of course does come with a McFarlane Multiverse display stand. Other than that, Azrael here doesn't come with anything else. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to his details. And so here we have a closer look at Azrael. Now, I'm gonna say this, McFarlane knocked it out of the park with this figure. I know I tend to say that a lot about McFarlane figures, that they knock it out of the park. We gotta give credit where credit is due. McFarlane is doing an amazing job with the DC license, even though we've been getting Batman and Batman and Batman and Superman and Batman. You gotta admit, we do have some really nice characters, and Azrael here is a really nice character. I really love the color of this version of Azrael. Of course, red is my favorite color, so of course I'm going to have a fondness for a red character. But just look at the amount of detailing on his mask. Every line in his mask is actually sculpted on. You can see 2 different shades of red. We do have a nice saturated red right here in the front of his mask, and then we have a nice deep red. Really loving the hood right here. You can see how it does taper off into that little point. Really do like the gold trim here, how it just goes all around. And then we have a little bit of a design right here. Really do like that. So the head sculpt on Azrael is really nice, and even the sculpt work on the wrinkles back here, McFarlane has done an amazing job with that. So really good job on the head sculpt. Taking a look at his torso, I think that's where this figure shines. He has a... It's really hard to say that it isn't beautiful, but it is a beautiful sculpt, and I'm going to show that off right here. You can see he kind of has like a sash right here that goes all around his body. You can see we have some armor plating, which looks nice, and then we have his sash right here. The armor plating does look like it is a blood red, where this does look like that same blood red. But we do have some shading here. So I love the fact that we have that really dark red right here. The same color here. But they actually shaded all the wrinkles and folds in the sash. And then you can see some of the armor bits down there. Turning it around, that sash again has some nice shading and coloring to it. And then we have the armor plating, which looks really good. We also do have a little Azrael symbol right here, so that looks good, and it's so clean too. I love how clean that is. The gold hits the mark perfectly, so really love that. We can see a little clip here, which actually has some sculpt work right here. Is that called a brooch? I want to say that that is called a brooch, and then we have another brooch right here. Both of them have really nice sculpted detail inside of them, so that's something I wasn't expecting. On his right arm, you can see his undershirt is coming out into these almost like a medieval tassels that come out, so I do like that. We have that same thing over here, but he does have this really nice pauldron right here, which is colored gold and has these really nice intricate designs sculpted onto it. So really do like that. We do have an armband right here, which unfortunately it is missing some paint right there. That's probably the only blemish on this figure that I can see right out of the box, but it still looks really nice. I'll talk about his cape in a little bit, but first let's talk about his gauntlets right here. The gold is done beautifully, and you can see even the buckles have a nice paint job to them. Although I would like to see these little clips, or I don't know if they're clips, but these little rivets in his gauntlets painted maybe like a silver. But just look at the design on his gauntlet right here. That is a lot of design. It has those rivets sculpted on. It comes all the way down to his knuckles like you would expect a gauntlet to do. A little strange that this isn't connected to the rest of the gauntlet, but it's acceptable. And they even sculpted the strap on the inside of the hand. That's a detail you'd never expect companies to actually notice, so really do like that. Taking a look at his garb, you can see he has a belt which is really nice. It does appear that it goes around. It ends right here, so if we follow it over here, moving his arm out of the way, you can see he does have a pouch right here with a cross which is nicely painted, a buckle. We have a rosary right here which goes all the way around his costume. We have a knife that's sculpted. Unfortunately, it doesn't come out. I would have liked to see that actually come out as a separate accessory. We have another pouch right back here. We do have a clip in the back of his belt, which if the camera will focus really fast, you can see how nice all that sculpt work is. So he's just full of detail, even down to his little tassel or sash right here, which you can see that's sculpted and painted on both sides. I do like the fact that they took the time to paint both sides. That's something a lot of companies don't do. We'll take a look at his cape before going over his legs. I love the way they did the cape. The cape is probably done exceptionally well, and this is the material all capes need to be made out of. I know it's a softer rubber, but just look at the way it flows. It's almost like a fabric. And I love the way they did this. The way it works is that you can see seam lines right up here, and that's pretty much solid plastic up to here. And then you can see that the covering is actually rubber. You can see a seam line right here. So the front part is actually a little rubbery. The back part right here is a solid piece of plastic, so that keeps it up. And then the fact that this is rubber means it just drapes down and it moves really nicely. Taking a look at his legs here, probably the least interesting part about his costume, because it's just stockings. It's the traditional Robin Hood tights. So he can probably be in men in tights and still look perfectly fine there. Going all the way to his medieval style shoes that have the fold coming over them. So just really do like that. Unfortunately, no treads right here. So overall, Azrael is chock full of detail, so I love that. This is one figure that you honestly should get your hand on, if not for the articulation and accessories, just for his detail alone. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him compared to other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Azrael posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Azrael posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Azrael posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, here we have Azrael posed next to the McFarlane White Knight Joker and the McFarlane White Knight Batman. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually move on to his articulation. Now, I love the way McFarlane did his articulation, and this is the way that I believe every company should do hoods from now on. We do have a ball joint right here in the head, so he can look up, and his view would of course be obstructed by that hood. And it does turn left and right inside that hood, but I'm not going to do it because it's a hassle just to get it to rotate back. Now, one thing I do like is that they put the hood and the entire headpiece on a ball joint. You can see it does tilt side to side really nicely, moves all the way around, looks up, looks down, turns left and right. So if a character has a hood, this is how they need to implement that from now on. This is the way Green Arrow should have been, and I absolutely hate that figure. Moving on to his arms, we do have a ball socket connecting into the torso. As you would expect, this is solid plastic, so getting his arm to move around here, yeah, you do have some limitations, but it does move around. Here, not so much, still goes back, still goes forward, goes down and up, but he's a pretty bulky guy, so we don't get too much movement. His right arm does go out to the side, only to about there, does get hindered, I can't move it any further up. Gets stuck going that far, but that's acceptable, and goes back about that far. Left arm, no problem, all the way around, forward and back, all the way out. We do have a bicep swivel hidden right here under his sleeve, so I do like that. It does move around nicely. We have a single bend at the elbow, if the camera will focus on that. So single bend at the elbow. Ball hinge at the wrist, so it does move in and out. A little bit hindered by his gauntlet right here. We can rotate that joint up to have an up and down hinge, and then it swivels on that peg. Having a look at his torso, we do have a ball joint in the torso, which does crunch forward. Not the best. Does arch back a little bit. Does lean side to side really well and rotates. We do have another ball joint right here at the lower torso, and that goes back to about that far. Comes forward that far, so really good range on the torso, so you can get him to do really deep crunches, so I appreciate that. Legs do kick forward to about there, not at all hindered. Let's see, yeah, we can actually get him to kick even higher than that, so really do like that. Legs go back to about there, that's acceptable. Go out to the side all the way, no problem. We do have a thigh swivel on Azrael, although it's not the best, but it is something, so I do like that. We do have a double bend at the knee. Gets really good range right there. It's a little bit loose right up to here, but once you get it there, it doesn't move on its own, so I do like that. And I think I can show it off with this leg a little bit more. It is loose, but once you get it to one of the detents, it stays, so it's not an issue whatsoever. Ball hinge at the ankle, but you don't get too much range because of the way his boot covers that joint, so we do have forward and back. Does rotate, forward facing pin. And then finally, we do have a toe hinge. Now, interesting enough, they didn't cast this in dark red, they painted it, so I don't know why they did that. It's kind of interesting, but it is something to note. So that's Azrael for you guys, and he's just a glorious piece to own. And I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts. So, with that being said, guys, let's actually move on to my final thoughts so we can wrap up this review. And so here we have the Curse of the White Knight Azrael posed for my final thoughts, and overall, Azrael is an amazing figure to own. The articulation on him is great. The accessories on him actually work for what he is. I would have liked to see some alternate hands, but overall, I think everything that this figure comes with works with him. Alternate hands would have just been icing on the cake, but overall, I still think Azrael is a phenomenal figure to have. If you are lucky enough to find this figure, I really recommend you don't pass on it. Azrael here looks impressive. He has really great posability. If you can't pose this figure, I'm sorry to say this, you just can't pose figures, because I have no issues getting him in poses that I want, despite how bulky he is. I think the one pose I'm having a problem with getting him in is a two-handed sword pose, but overall, I still think he's a phenomenal piece to own. If you are looking for the Curse of the White Knight Azrael, as well as all the rest of the White Knight series, they are starting to trickle out in stores at the time I'm making this video. I have seen some people find them at Target, some people are finding them at Walmart. I picked up my entire case off Amazon, and that did come with Joker, Batman, and of course, Azrael. For $20 each, with the amount of detail and articulation that you get with this figure, I think $20 is a bargain of a price. Now, Azrael here does seem to be the one to get, and he is sold out on Amazon at the time I'm making this video. So I really do recommend that if you see Azrael in stores, that you do not pass up on him, because chances are, if you pass on him once, you're probably going to end up spending like $40 for him secondhand market, because he is the sought after from this series, and I can imagine a lot of people are out looking for him. If you can find Azrael, definitely add him to your DC Multiverse collection. He'll fit in wonderfully. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other DC Multiverse videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.